Welcome to the jungle. I'm your host, Andy Garza, President and CEO of Big Gorilla Sales and Marketing Training. Here in the Jungle podcast for all the hungry entrepreneurs, you'll hear firsthand experiences from business owners of how they overcame challenges on their road to success. Every week, we'll have a different business owner from every walk of life. If you want to learn more about guerrilla marketing, visit biggorillamarketing.com. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Big Gorilla Marketing. Welcome to this week's episode of the Jungle Podcast for Hungry Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Andy Garza, and this week we'll be talking about being your best salesperson in your business and the secret tips using guerrilla sales techniques. So we're going to talk about, like I said, the best salesperson you have is you. It all starts with you. Now, if you're a one-man show, that's pretty obvious. But you have to look at yourself as a salesperson. You may be an expert at what you do or what the product that you have. But when you open your own business, your own small business, you're the best salesperson you have. So it's a good idea to become very good at it. Now, when I started businesses, and I started 4 of them, 3 of them I had to really start from scratch. One was a supporting company for a bigger company that I had worked for, and I started a separate company. Anyways, so I had to be my best salesperson because there's no one else. Your friends and family are only going to keep you in business for a couple months, by indulging in your product or service, helping you out, but that's going to fade away. So you actually need to have some sales techniques. Now, there is what is called guerrilla sales. Now, everybody may have heard of what guerrilla marketing is, but I've established some expertise in sales over the years, and I have used guerrilla sales techniques that I have actually discovered. So what am I talking about as your best salesperson? Well, when you do a sales presentation trying to sell your product or your service, it is a sales process. And if you've never done it before, you have to really spend some time learning the different types of things that you have to think about when you're doing a sales presentation. Guerrilla sales is more of a preparation than most sales are. A lot of retail sales or commission sales, the place that you do that you work for actually spends a lot of money getting customers to walk through the door. That's one way. And then it's up to you to do the presentation and close them. But in guerrilla sales, it's more of a preparation. You may not think that you have to prepare for sales because the customer's coming to you and the products on the showroom floor or your service is, pretty evident. But you do have to prepare how to handle a customer. And the preparation is everything. Number one, even though you don't know the person walking through the door, you have to really know who your customer is and who are the people that would possibly be interested in your product, and what is their lifestyle, what do they value, what are some of the problems that the average person has when they come to walk in your door for your product or your service. You got to really delve into what their experiences are. And then you got to know who your competitors are and what they're offering compared to what you offer, and what are your assets of your company or your product or service as compared to your competitors. You have to know it. I used to work for a dealership in Arizona. It was the largest Honda dealership in the nation, and right next door were 3 other dealerships. You could walk from one to the other. I was a Honda dealership. Next door to me was a Toyota dealership. Next door to them was a Nissan dealership. So you had tons of cars that were, crossovers from mid-size to economy cars to, minivans, trucks. They're all going to shop the other 2 or 3 dealerships right next door to you. So it's very difficult to harness on a first call. But I was able to do that because I was prepared. I knew exactly all the competitors, what their advantages were and what their disadvantages were. And of course, I'm going to point out the disadvantages of their vehicle over ours. Because I point blank would ask the people, what other cars are you considering? And they would ask, well, we're considering a Toyota or a Nissan or whatnot. And then I would know all about the competing cars from my product that they were looking at. They were looking at a midsize sedan. I knew the midsize sedan with Toyota and Nissan like the back of my hand, like I was one of their salespeople. So it is very advantageous for me to know what the other products out there that my customers were considering. And I will continue to do my sales process and my preparation for anybody who walked through the door. They're going to fall into certain categories depending on what product they're looking at. And I had advantage of knowing my competitors' product as well as my own. It's important that you come across as being very knowledgeable, and so they can trust you because they have, you in front of them that knows all about their other cars that they're considering. So that was a situation where I did very well very quickly because I knew the value of preparing and knowing my customer before they even walk through the door. So you are the best salesperson, so you're going to be the best prepared person, because as you grow and maybe you'll get a sales staff, one or two or three outside sales or inside sales, depending on your business and your service. They have to be as well prepared as you are. And you can't leave it up to them. You have to be the head of the sales staff and feed them all the knowledge that you have so they are well prepared, so they can go in with confidence, and anybody that walks through the door, or anybody, if they're in outside sales, that they have a chance to sit down with, they're so well prepared. That's what gives people confidence in you. And once they have confidence in you as a person and a salesperson, they're more likely to buy from you. If you're ill prepared and don't know your competitors, it will show. Because they will have questions unanswered, and the more unanswered questions that they leave with, that they have, that they're not going to buy from you, because they have to get the answers to those questions. If you don't have them, they'll find them somewhere else. After yourself, it's important to know that when referring to sales, the mindset that you have on your own company and the mindset of how you want the sales presentations to be has to be delivered to anybody in your staff. They have to know what your mindset is and how you treat your own product, what makes it different, what makes it unique, why are you in business. They have to know all this because they have to exude that to anybody they come across. They have to really portray that this is the philosophy of our company, and this is why we're successful. The more they have in their arsenal of the mindset that you have, the better they're going to do for you. And that's the bottom line. That's the whole trip as far as hiring people and hiring sales staffs. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of them over the years because I was in management for 25 years. So I've come across and hired and fired a lot of people. And the more they know about you and the company, the better they're equipped. I remember when I was in flooring and I was a salesperson, I was a top salesperson, and they called me up for possibility of promotion when they opened up a major market in the Chicago area, and they were just opening up, and they wanted some people that could manage some stores. So they called me up for an interview, and the first thing, the interview lasted 10 minutes. 8 of those minutes were the executive vice president of the company, the second in command of the entire company. It's a national company. He went over the philosophy of the company and what they expect as a manager. And that's all they wanted me to understand, what the thinking of the company was and why they're successful and how they want to open a major market in the Chicago area, which they had no stores at the time. And they wanted me to know and understand what exactly that they want out of me as far as in conjunction with the philosophy of the company. I was pretty impressed with that. I thought, wow, he spent all this time just to tell me what the company's all about. And then was I interested in helping them out doing that? Meaning, was I interested in the promotion? And of course I was. And so that was my first promotion. And after that, it was all about understanding every facet of the company. And I wanted to be the right-hand person of whoever was, managing me as a district supervisor or executive vice president. Anyways, it was important for them to know, and I learned a lot from that. If it's important for the largest flooring company in the United States to make sure that a salesperson knew the philosophy of the company I was very impressed that they spent so much time. And the last 2 minutes was, are you interested? Yes. Okay, done deal. That type of thing. This was on a Friday, so you start Monday. So I had to basically pack my bags and go to Chicago, and from where I lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So, but I remember that like it was yesterday, and that was, 40 years ago. Anyways, so the mindset that you teach everybody to in your company is so important, and you have to spend some time and make sure everybody knows what your mindset is and what you expect of them in sales and how you want the sales presentation to go and what they can and cannot do. And I've learned a lot over the years as far as the different sales techniques. I've been a top salesperson in 4 different categories, industries, and in furniture, and auto sales, and flooring, and in insurance. I was the number 1 agent, and the last year I did, I was the number 1 agent. And oddly enough, it was only my 3rd year in the business, and I still didn't know my product very well, but I was the number 1 agent. And how is that? How is that possible? I had virtually no product knowledge when I started.
Now for a quick break to thank our sponsors: Awaken Marketing, Awaken New Possibilities, Griner Law Group, Small Business Showcase Magazine, celebrating the small business spirit, M&D Advertising, Creations Beyond Expectations, and Big Gorilla Sales and Marketing Training, bringing out your inner gorilla.
And I still didn't know my product very well, but I was the number 1 agent. And how is that? How is that possible? I had virtually no product knowledge when I started. In 3 years, you don't learn everything. I don't think I learned a third of what I need to know. But yet I was the number 1 salesperson out of hundreds of thousands of agents, because I use different techniques and mindsets to achieve that. It wasn't all just because I'm great. It was things that I've learned and realized and took to heart, some of the important things. And one of the techniques that I wanted to talk about as far as guerrilla marketing sales is the fact that when you sit, either when the customer comes in the door or you're out in an outside sales position, because I've done both, it's so important that you don't talk about your product or service in the beginning. You don't even mention it, because you have to sit down and look people in the eye and tell them, I don't know you right now. I'm glad you came in and gave me an opportunity to show you what our product or service is. But I want you to know one thing: whatever you do, if you buy from me or not, I'm going to help you. And that goes so far, because if you say it with sincerity, and you're looking them in the eye, and you're telling them that you're going to help them regardless of what they do. That's one of the techniques I used, and it didn't matter what product I was selling. Like I said, I was top sales in 4 different industries, and I used it in every one of those. And it's always in the beginning, before I even show them a product or even talk about a product or Ask them one question, I do that. And then it's, you start asking questions. Now, a lot of people go, okay, do some fact finding. Well, it's not really just fact finding. You have to really use the answers to the questions. And it's not just the basic questions. I used to come up with at least 2 or 3 obscure questions that all were relevant, but I know that none of my competitors would ever ask these questions. They just didn't care enough to really put themselves in the shoes of their client or their customer, because that's what I was doing. Any little nuance of problem that I can uncover by these questions. Remember, when you are in sales, you are the solution to their problem. You have to uncover what problem that is. You know, if it's a new product that they want, in my case, it was flooring or furniture or auto sales, or even financial planning through insurance products. I had to uncover some products or some problems that they had that they didn't even know they had until I brought it up to them. And then obviously I would present down the road of the conversation the solution to those problems. But it just wasn't questions just to know, you know, the basic questions. You have to really delve into it more than you ever have in every situation. And I'll guarantee you, I don't care what you're selling, there are questions that you can ask that are not conventional, that you can uncover problems that they didn't even know they had. So that was a technique that I used. It worked very well in all 4 industries. Another technique that I used was when I'm asking questions and they're answering, I would make mental notes, but I didn't want to ask more than 3 questions in a row before I start giving them information. After each question, though, if I had an informational interjection, maybe not discovering the problem at that point, but I would always try to give them education on the question that they have. For instance, I would ask, in flooring, I would ask, you know, obviously, what rooms are you working on, that type thing, and if there's a hallway involved, and usually if they're doing a whole house, obviously there's a hallway, but I would kind of really dissect the hallway. So, okay, tell me about the hallway. Does it lead to the bedrooms, or does it lead to, you know, you have hallways between the living room and dining room? And I would start asking them specific questions like that, which normally isn't asked. And then I said, okay, when you come off the entryway, do you have a living room or a dining room on either side? And if they asked yes, I said, okay. And I would say, and they would ask, okay, what difference does that make? I said, well, when you step off the entryway, is it, if it's a tile or a linoleum or whatever it is, do you pivot into on the carpet? And most often, 90% of the time, said yes. And so what difference does that make? Well, pivoting actually untwist your carpet when you pivot. Now you do that enough times, you're going to see a little spot there, and what you're seeing is the collapse of the twist of the carpet, and which is really important. They wonder how it got the wear. Hallways are the same way. You're pivoting into the bedrooms or wherever the hallway leads, and those pivot points. And I point that out just so they got it in their mind that, okay, yeah, I recognize that there are pivot points in my own house, but what do I do about it? Well, I don't offer the solution yet until down the road when I've asked more questions. I just plant the seed in their head that that's a problem they didn't even know they had. And obviously when I come up with a solution, they're going to be astounded that there's a solution to their problem that they didn't know they had. That was one technique I used. I actually used and educated after every question. If I had an education moment, Not every question has that, if you're just asking, what rooms are you working on, they're gonna say living room, dining room, hallway, and 3 bedrooms. That's not a problem yet. So I actually have created problems that they didn't know they had. Anyways, that's another technique that I used, when I was doing fact finding. And then in the body of the sales, I do a present before I show them one item. In this case, in flooring, before I showed them one item, I would always proceed by saying, okay, you got a living room, dining room, and I've already figured out what they probably have in yardage. That was another technique that I used in the beginning. It's a confidence building. Now, each industry has their own way of, has their own confidence building opportunities. This one in flooring, I used, and no one else that I know of used it. It took me a while to learn and really get the math down to where it was done in seconds, rather than trying to figure out things. Somebody could hand me a drawing if they had it, and I'll tell you what I did when they didn't have it. But a lot of people came in with a drawing of their living room, dining room, and their measurements in the hallway and the 3 bedrooms. They could hand it to me, and while they're handing it to me, I look at it and I hand it right back to them. And then I would tell them the yardage. I could figure out all the cuts and the yardage of the carpet within about 2.5 seconds and be accurate within 1/3 of a yard, which is 3 inches in a 12-foot roll. I was that quick. Now, I wasn't that quick all the time. I studied it. I studied my yardage. I studied putting the math together in my head until I got so good that people could literally hand me the drawing and I'd hand it right back and I'd have the yardage, and they were blown away. How did you do that? Are you kidding me? They say they couldn't believe it at first, and then I would say, okay, let me show you. And I'd take their paper, do all the cuts, and show them physically what they needed for each cut in bedrooms and fill pieces and hallways, living room, dining room, and add it all up and say, okay, that's a 12 by whatever, and then here's the exact yardage, just like I told you. And they were just absolutely stunned that I could do it that quick. And the first question is, how'd you do that quick? And as I would say with a straight face and not in any particular tone, I said, I've been doing this a while. I'm very good at what I do. So let's go and look at some product. Now, that technique was a confidence builder, and that's what you need in the beginning. You need to build confidence from that customer or client in you, and how you do it is, different in each industry, but that's how I did it in flooring. That's how I was so successful in selling flooring. So anyways, those are some of the techniques I used, the guerrilla sales techniques in business, and you can adopt those, and you can go to my website for guerrilla marketing, sales and marketing training. And I do seminars, and I teach both guerrilla marketing and guerrilla sales. And I go over some of the other techniques that I use. But that's all for this episode. And we'll see you next week. If you want to learn more about guerrilla marketing, visit biggorillamarketing.com. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Big Guerrilla Marketing.
To thank our sponsors: Awaken Marketing, Awaken New Possibilities, Griner Law Group, Small Business Showcase Magazine, celebrating the small business spirit, M&D Advertising, Creations Beyond Expectations, and Big Guerrilla Sales and Marketing Training, bringing out your inner gorilla.